Welcome back to the Early Show from here in New York City to Gary, Indiana, where he was born, to Los Angeles, where he died, and all over the world. We continue remembering Michael Jackson. Welcome back to the Early Show.
We're going to hear more about the alleged cardiac arrest that apparently took Michael Jackson's life.
And we're going to also have a report on what could be the fate of Michael Jackson's 3 children.
First, though, our own Dave Price is outside the Jackson family compound in Encino, California, with more. Good morning again, Dave.
Good morning to you, Harry. The crowds are once again beginning to grow now that early morning has come here. Some are coming from the LA area, and some are coming who have been driving all night from places around the West, like Las Vegas. This is B.G. Watson, and B.G., we've been watching you for the last hour or so, just sitting here crying. Tell me what this emotion is like and what's driving your tears.
Because he did so much for so many people. He built bridges that, I mean, he did more for a young person and through his life than most people do or could ever dream of. He was an amazing person, and the tears are because he's going to be missed. He was loved, and he's going to be missed. He did things that my daughter can only imagine. Most of us don't do anything to serve people, to help people. He brought races together. He did things as a young person that, gosh, just brought so many people together.
And again, you know, Harry, this emotion is something we've seen repeated over and over and over again. So many people, not only just a fan of his music, but certainly a fan of the man as well. Typical, of course, when a superstar like this is lost. We'll be back with more from here in just a little while. In the meantime, Lara, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Dave, thank you. And, of course, a big question on the minds of many this morning is what happens now with Michael Jackson's 3 children? Kevin Frazier of Entertainment Tonight joins us with some insight into that. Good morning, Kev.
Good morning, Lara. And you know what? Here's the bottom line. 3 young children are without their beloved father. And as everyone will tell you, these kids were everything to Michael. But because of their ages and a possible fortune that has been left behind, the big question is, what happens next? Michael Joseph Jackson Jr., known as Prince, his first son, born in 1997. Paris Michael Catherine Jackson, his daughter, born in 1998. And Prince Michael Jackson II, known as Blanket, a second son born in 2002. Blanket was the child he held over the balcony in that infamous baby dangling incident. What happens to them now that Michael is gone?
The children are with a nanny. They're being cared for. Mrs. Jackson loves them. She takes care of them.
Lawyer Brian Oxman says the children are currently with their grandmother, Catherine, but who will ultimately get custody? Debbie Rowe, Jackson's second wife, is the mother of the 2 oldest. They divorced in 1999. Could she end up with them?
I don't talk about being a parent.
We were allowed into Rowe's home and her world in 2004. But because of a reported confidentiality agreement, she didn't talk about the kids or about Jackson.
My family. That's off limits to everyone.
In 2005, Rowe battled Jackson over custody, and eventually an undisclosed agreement of some kind was reached. But back in 2004, it was obvious she was a woman living in some kind of fear.
My big fears I can't talk about. And I wouldn't. And my biggest fear is that those fears happen.
Now that Michael is gone, that agreement and maybe others may be made public, and that's because of what Michael left behind. How about this? His 50% stake in the Sony ATV catalog, which houses the majority of the Beatles songs and also artists ranging from Neil Diamond to Lady Gaga, has an estimated value of at least $50 million alone. You know, the kids are in line to inherit that, so it'll be very interesting to see if the birth mothers ultimately get custody and control. Lara?
It will indeed, Kev. And Entertainment Tonight has such a history with Michael Jackson. Some incredible video in our archives. Can you share some of the incredible moments?
Well, in 1988, Mary Hart actually went out on the Bad tour, and when I saw this video, I literally ran down to Mary and I was like, wait a minute, Mary, you walked Michael Jackson to stage? And she said, yeah, but here's the interesting thing, Kev. He was so nervous going to the stage, and that I could feel him shaking, and I kind of held on and reassured him and said, Michael, it's going to be okay. But it's fascinating video to see Mary right there with Michael, and Michael talking about her on stage later.
All right, Kevin Frazier, Entertainment Tonight. Mary Hart did an amazing job there, and so did you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.
Harry.
Lara, take care.
I was creeping in right in.
It's his fault,
No,
everyone.
I was creeping in right at the because I was looking at those pictures of Mary Hart, and to really it's a kind of spellbinding.
How lucky is she?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a story about him, and if you've ever interviewed him or seen him up close, there was magic.
But the dichotomy of Michael Jackson is what struck me. She was walking with him and saying he seemed nervous. This nervous, shy, reclusive guy.
Shy.
You know, right? And then this just breaks out on the stage.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Brian Oxman was Jackson's family spokesperson, a family attorney for a long time, and friend. He was at the hospital yesterday, and I spoke with him earlier this morning, and I began by asking him about his concern that Jackson was abusing prescription drugs.
Oh, yes, I do, Harry. I had warned everyone that I could warn, and I told them that one day if Michael Jackson is going to wake up dead, which is a very odd way of putting it, but the way I was trying to say it, I was going to speak out and say that this is not right, that he has not been cared for properly, and that the people around him should recognize that they never, never should have permitted such a thing to happen.
Do you believe people around him were enabling him, were literally helping him along in this process?
I do not want to point fingers at anyone because I want to hear what the toxicology report says and what the coroner's report says. But the plain fact of the matter is that Michael Jackson had prescription drugs at his disposal at all times, and that he was using them. He was in pain, so he had his reasons for using them. He had broken the vertebrae in his back. He had also broken his leg when he fell off of a stage and fell about 40 feet to the ground. But the bottom line was that he was under the influence of prescription medications for most of the time, and it was dangerous, and I warned that it was dangerous, and all of the warnings went unheeded.
I want to move on to the children now. What happens to his children?
It will be probably the start of a long battle, and the fact of the matter is that they are with Mrs. Jackson at the moment. They are cared for by the family and by a nanny who is taking excellent care of them. But we will have to see how that plays out in a court of law. I suspect that the death of Michael Jackson is only the beginning of the legal battles over not only his property, but also his children.
As you best understand it, do you think Debbie Rowe would have claim to 2 of those children?
I know Debbie. I've talked to her so many times. I worked on the case involving Debbie and Michael in the divorce. I've handled 6 divorces in this family. I always liked Debbie Rowe. And it is my experience in a court of law that when one of the parties passes away, there's always a claim of a natural parent. So whatever the contracts were and whatever the agreements were, there is always the prospect of legal proceedings, and how successful or the outcome, boy, oh boy, it is your guess and my guess. We just don't know, and we'll have to watch it play out as it does all by itself.
Brian Oxman, we thank you for your time this morning. Take care.
I thank you, Harry.